Ireland, the country with the highest density of famous musicians per capita in the entire world. Ireland is a country with less than 5 million inhabitants. Even Boston has a larger population. But as small as the population may be, Ireland is the cradle of well-known music like Enya, the Cranberries, and of course Bono from U2. But there is another thing that makes Ireland famous as well, and that's that it's the second wealthiest country in the Eurozone. Further, Irish people have more money than the British or even the Swiss. And this is surprising, given that just 30 years ago, Ireland was as poor as Greece. Yep, you heard that right. Back then, 1 in every 5 Irish university students were emigrating to other countries. Today, there are more people with Irish blood living in the US or Australia than there are in Ireland itself. Nonetheless, now this country is home to some of the world's leading technological companies. Firms like Apple or Google have their tax headquarters there, and many of you might be thinking now that that's simply because of the low taxes there, right? Now, of course, it is absolutely true that Ireland does offer good fiscal conditions for companies, but other countries like the Republic of Liberia or the Seychelles also offer pretty low corporate taxes, and they're not even half as rich as Ireland. So the big question here is, what have they done to grow so fast? How is it that even after the financial crisis, Ireland remains wealthier than Switzerland? Today, we're going to answer this question, but first, as usual, we're going to take a look at the history. In 1987, Ireland reached an unemployment rate of 17%. So, once again, the Irish youth started packing up and moving abroad. Now, if you've been following VisualPolitik for some time, you'll probably know that immigration isn't really much of a problem for a country. Can you guess what the real issue is? Well, actually, it's exactly the opposite: migration. What you need to consider is who was leaving Ireland. Well, it was the university students, and it was those people with higher skills. This caused what is known as a brain drain. How did they step out of this scenario? Well, let me tell you a story.
Celtic tiger roars.
It was the year 1987, and Charles Haughey had won the elections in Ireland. He found a country on the edge of collapse, and he realized something. You can't open your economic system without first modernizing it. Of course, companies like Oracle or HP were happy to be in Ireland and pay less taxes than they were paying in the US, but were they willing to open a research center or a factory that would employ 1,000 people? The answer was no. And why? Well, first they would have to deal with the labor laws, which were a bureaucratic nightmare. In other words, highly skilled professionals would rather just move to the United States. So the first policy implemented by Haughey was to deal with the trade unions and the companies. Salaries would grow at the same rate as the economy would. On the other hand, he lowered income taxes. This way, workers ended up making more money even if the wages were the same. And this soon started generating results.
Hewlett-Packard Leixlip plant is to employ 2,000 people by the year 2000.
In a short amount of time, all of those multinational companies that had opened their fiscal headquarters on Irish soil started owning their own factories and offices. Meanwhile, unemployment was going down, wages were on the rise, and even the government collected more money. But not only that. This deal with the unions and bureaucratic simplification helped create all new companies. Have you ever flown with Ryanair, bought a t-shirt at Primark, drunk a Guinness? Well, all of these companies expanded internationally during those years. This explains why the Irish economy grew as much as the Chinese economy during the 1990s. Suddenly, hairdressers in Dublin would offer champagne to their customers. Some people even flew to New York to do shopping on the weekends. These were the years of the Celtic tiger, and at that point, The Economist decided to dedicate another article to the country.
A decade ago, Irish incomes were less than 2/3 of British incomes. Last year, by one measure, they had surpassed British incomes.
But hold on just a moment, because not everything is so perfect. Of course, during those 15 years, salaries doubled, but that optimism drove banks to offer mortgages to nearly everyone and encouraged ridiculous spending. In those years, there were even companies that rented helicopters for children to have their first communion in the air. And this led to a financial crisis that we are going to cover in another video.